Let's try this again. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for correcting me on that. All right, so we were talking action items. So I put the 3 photos up, which kind of goes over again what Cindy mentioned before was affecting the orcas or threatening the orcas and causing them to be endangered. So for photo number 1, I have a big X through that salmon on that photo there. So you can see that there's just not enough salmon out there for the residents to find enough food. The second one we talked about was pollution and those toxins. She showed you how those toxins can work their way up the food chain. And then the third one was vessel noise. So my question is, what do you think that you all can do to help the orcas when we know what's harming them? So I'm actually going to stop sharing for a second. And we're going to go back to asking you to raise your hand if you guys have things that you think, like what do you think that you can do to help the orcas? So I see we have Brandon here. I'm going to get you unmuted. All right. So what do you think you can do to help the orcas?
Don't litter.
Don't litter. That's a really good one. So if you're not littering, what are you doing with your trash?
Throwing it in a trash can.
Perfect. Throwing in the trash can. What else can you do with some other items that can go in maybe another bin? What other bin am I looking for? If you don't throw trash in the, like if it's plastic maybe, what can you do with plastic instead of throwing it in the trash?
Recycle it.
There you go. So we can have don't litter and recycle. And let's see, I have a bunch of hands up. So I'm going to go to Ryder. Ryder, I think, let's see. There you go. What do you think that we can do to help the orcas?
Find any garbage or toxins that we can pick up.
Perfect. So not just putting our own trash in the trash, but if you're out somewhere, you can certainly pick up trash that you see in the area, right? That's a really good one. All right. And we're going to go to Vanessa. I'll get you on unmute here so you can tell us what you think we can do to help the orcas.
Yeah, say it, say it.
Don't eat salmon never.
Don't eat salmon. So that's actually a really good one. We get asked that question a lot, you know, if giving up salmon will help the orcas. And if you remember what Cindy said, there's one type of salmon in particular that the orcas really like, and it's called king salmon, which is most likely how you'll see it in the store. The other name for that salmon is Chinook, and that's actually a really cool thing that you could do. Or if you like salmon, there are a lot of people that like salmon out there. It's yummy. You can pick a different kind of salmon to eat instead, right? So
Farm
that's a
salmon?
good. I'm sorry?
Farm salmon?
Not farmed, actually. That is a really good question. So what happens with farmed salmon is they are held in pens out in the ocean. So they're just kind of in a big group. And there are a lot of different diseases and pollution that goes into the water that does affect the orcas because of the way that they're kept out there. So one really good thing to think about when you're at the grocery store is if you see something that says wild caught, that means a fisherman went out in the wild and caught that salmon instead. That's actually better than eating farm salmon, not just for the whales, but actually for yourself too. It's healthier for you. So that's a really good thing to bring up there. So thanks. And then we're gonna go to Michael. We'll get you unmuted and tell me what you think we can do to help the southern resident orcas. Are you there? All right. You're unmuted, sweetie. You want to tell us what you think we can do to help the southern residents? All right, maybe we'll come back to you, okay? We're going to go on to Gibson. And Gibson, do you want to tell us what, sorry, I blocked your unmute. Do you want to tell us what we can do to help southern resident orcas?
Don't capture orca when you're older.
Say that again, just a little louder. I didn't hear you.
Don't capture orca when you're older.
Don't capture them. Yeah, so actually what Cindy showed you earlier, the state of Washington finally said, hey, we're not going to do that anymore. And that's when the researchers started studying all the things we know about orcas. We just decided we didn't know enough about them. We didn't know how many were out there. We were going to stop taking them out of the water. But that's a really good thing to continue doing in the future. All right, so maybe I'll take 2 more and then we're going to move on to the activity, because I'm actually going to give you guys a chance once we get into the drawing portion to write something down that you think you can do to help the orcas. So I'm going to take 2 more. I'm going to go to Jordan first. Jordan, what do you think you can do to help the southern residents?
Keep feeding the orca.
Keep feeding them. Yeah. Or if you want to put that in different terms, we could do some habitat restoration to help salmon. If we have more salmon, that means the orcas are going to have more food, right?
But if someone just got a bucket of salmon, then just dump it in the ocean, would an orca eat it or not?
You know, we don't really know about that. There have been a couple different things that scientists have done to try to see what we could do to get more salmon in the water, but the orcas move around a lot, right? So when we go out, if we were to go out with a bucket of salmon, I'm not sure we would even be able to find the right orcas to put those in front of, right? And if they're still alive, they might be able to swim away. But that's a really good thought.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right, so last one. I think we'll go back to, let's try Michael's again. Although I'm thinking that's not her first name.
Well, I was just going to jump in and say, I think sometimes a lot of these might be your parents' name or whoever's computer you're using. So if you want to change it to your name, there's a way that you can do that. If you take the mouse of the computer up to the top right corner of your picture, you'll see 3 little dots, hopefully. And if you click on that, it should give you a chance to rename. I think you have a chance to do that. So if you go next to your name, you can click rename and you can type in your name, and that way we'll be able to call on you. Because I think some of them aren't actually your names, and we would like to be able to use your names if we can.
We'll see if she gets it changed.
All right. I see a couple names changing.
Okay, Charlie.
There
All
we
right,
go.
perfect. So you were the one I was trying to get a hold of earlier. So Charlie, I unmuted you. You had your hand up a little bit earlier. Do you want to tell us what you can do to help the southern resident orcas?
Well, I actually only had a question.
Okay.
It was how long an orca can stay underwater before it has to go up to the surface.
That's a good one. Cindy, you want to take that one?
So how long can they stay underwater before they have to come up? So from what I've heard, they can stay underwater for about 15 minutes, but that's pretty unusual. Usually the longest they'll stay under is about 6 or 7 minutes, and most often they'll come up about every minute or so. But they can stay under for 15 minutes if they have to. It's a good question.
Awesome. All right, so what I'm going to do is go back to my PowerPoint, and we're going to keep going into what I have for you guys to do today. So in the Facebook event for the parents that probably signed you all up, we had shared a photo. It's an 8-step process on how to draw an orca. And earlier today, I sent an email out with a template that I had made. So I'm going to show you both. You don't have to have the template printed out. We realize that a lot of people might not have printers at home, but if you want to keep that pulled up either on a phone or an iPad, you can keep it next to you just as reference. If you were able to print out the template, that's awesome because there's space on there for you to be able to draw your orca and then write down that action that you can think of that's going to help Southern residents. So I'm going to pull that back up and show you all what it looks like. So this is going to be the process that we're going to work through. I'm actually going to talk to you guys while you're drawing your orca. And so what I hope is that everybody has paper and pencil. You can have pen at the very end if you want to outline your orca, but pencil is really going to help you because if you'll notice the 8 steps that I have here, there are a couple of steps where we've erased some lines. So once we get some of the shapes drawn in, and then you want that overall outline of the orca at the very end, you're going to want to be able to go in with an eraser and erase some marks. So next to the orcas that I have drawn out step by step, I just have a couple, I guess, reminders or things that are going to make it easier for you to draw your orca. So the first one was use a pencil with a good eraser, or you could have a pencil and then have one of those big erasers on the side. That'll work too. When you draw the first few steps, try to draw very lightly. If you'll notice on steps 1 through 4, my pencil marks are not as dark as the rest of the orcas in steps 5 through 8. And that's because when you erase, if you've drawn too hard, sometimes those lines are still going to stay there. So you're going to want to try to erase them so you can't see them anymore. And then one thing that was taught to me a long time ago when I was taking art classes and drawing classes was if you look at the orca and you break the orca down into shapes, kind of like I've done, it's going to be a lot easier to draw the orca when you move step by step if you're thinking about that. And if you'll see, I have some notes that I'm going to read to you when we go over that'll help remind you what those shapes might be and where they're at. And then at the very end, the very last step is one of the most fun. Cindy talked to you about the saddle patch, which is how we identify the orcas individually from each other. Their eye patch, which is this little patch right here, right above the eye in white. Those two things are very different on every single orca. So I have a little note in here that says, make your orca unique, make them different. You could do shapes, you could do fun things if you want. But if you want your orca to look more like an orca in real life, then it would look something similar to what I've drawn here, but feel free to get creative on that part. And then the last thing I wanted to say was when I drew this, I drew the female, and that was just way easier to be able to line all these orcas up on one page, because if I made a male with a really tall dorsal fin, all of these steps wouldn't fit on one page. But if you decide you want to do a male orca instead of a female orca, make sure you give him a really tall dorsal fin, okay? So it's gonna be bigger than the one you see in the picture here. So if you guys are ready and you have paper and pencil, the first thing I'm gonna do is show you the next page so that you can see kind of what we're gonna do. So on your piece of paper, if you turn it sideways so that it looks longer in front of you, yep, Charlie's holding hers up, that's great. We're gonna try to see if you can get your orca in the top left corner. So on my screen, I have this wavy box, and right underneath it, I have draw your orca here. So if you were able to print this off, this is what we're gonna use. But if you're just using a blank piece of paper, go ahead and put it up in the left-hand corner. And the reason being is we're gonna have you fill in some information next to your orcas when you're done. So I'm gonna go back to the page just before this so that we can see the 1 through 8. And so number 1, I have written here, draw a sideways egg. So if you think of an Easter egg or any egg, really, if you were to draw it on its side so that it's an oval, the left side is going to be thicker here or bigger right here at the base. And then when you come back, it's going to be tapered back here. So that's going to be the basic structure for your overall orca. And this is what we're going to build off of when we go to the next step. So when everybody has a sideways egg drawn, I'm going to ask you to give me a thumbs up. I can only see a couple of you, so I don't want to move too fast, but I do want to know when you're done with your eggs. So I see a couple thumbs up. Yeah. All right, so the next one says add an oval. And when I say add an oval, I'm talking about their pectoral flipper right here, which is the equivalent of their arm. Draw a soft triangle, which is their dorsal fin. So if you look too, it's along the back here, a little bit behind this oval. So make sure when you're putting that dorsal fin on there, it's kind of in this area here. And then when you add your cone, that's going to be back here by the tail. So it's kind of a triangle here and here, but then it gets a real soft curve at the top. And basically what those three things are going to help us do is draw the pec fin, the dorsal fin, and the tail. So once you guys have those done too, maybe give me another thumbs up and we'll see where we're at. Yeah, getting a couple thumbs up. All right, perfect. So the next step is pretty easy. It says add some wavy lines for the tail. So if you'll look, if you were to come back to the cone in step one, there's a spot right here in the center. If you start your wavy line here and kind of come out, that's going to be one side of the tail. And then if you start back in the middle and draw the second wavy line, that's going to be the other side of the tail. So that you almost get something that kind of looks like a butterfly or the bottom of the orca tail. And remember, draw lightly if you can, because we're going to erase some stuff coming up in the next few steps. All right. What do you guys, okay, I got a couple thumbs up. Cool. We think we should move on to step 4. Perfect. All right, so step 4, we're going to get into some detail. Right now, our orca doesn't really look much like an orca. It just looks like a bunch of shapes. But the next thing I'm going to have you do is we are going to include shapes for the white area of the orca. So right now, what that will look like is there is this wavy line right here along the belly. And if you'll remember, Cindy said that's kind of how we tell the males and the females apart from each other when they breach and come out of the water like that. So you'll start kind of right here at the pec fin, which was that oval that we added a couple steps ago, and come up onto the belly a little bit and then come down before you get to the tail. That's going to be kind of the white markings for underneath the orca. And then the other area, we're going to have some white. You can start on the pec side here too. So come away from that oval. That's going to be the mouth here. You can give them a little triangle and then connect it right to about the middle where the mouth would be. And so the last thing I did is I added a little bit of what is called the Whales Rostrum. That's kind of his nose right there. He has a little bit of a bend instead of it being perfectly flat like we drew it originally. So if you go in there and bring that line in just a little bit, you can see how my line is starting to get dark here. So that's the main line that I'm going to want to keep without having to erase anything. You guys can add that little piece in there too. All right, perfect. I got a couple thumbs up for ready to move on to step 5. What we're going to do now is we're going to give the orca an open mouth instead of keeping it closed. And so in this step, what you'll see I've done is if you look back at step 4, where I had you draw the triangle right here, if you were to come somewhere in the middle of that triangle and draw a curve right to the outside, that's going to be this curve that you guys see right here. Then you'll just connect it to the bottom of the chin down here. So you already have this line. But once you do that and you draw the curve, what I'm going to want you to do is take your eraser for the first time, and you're going to want to erase the space between the rostrum right here, which I had you draw in the last step, and then the bottom of the mouth so that it looks like the orca's mouth is open. Some of the other things that we erased and we cleaned up was we went into the pec fin here, and instead of leaving that oval with the overlapping line that we had behind it, I went ahead and erased between where the mouth and the belly. is, and then I erase the top portion of the pec fin too so that it looks like it's connected to the side of the whale. So I'm going to give you guys a minute on that. The other little thing that I added in here, and this is just because I know orcas really well, is when they open their mouth, kind of like we do at the sides of our mouth, we have a little bit of like a lip on the sides. So I added a little bit of that so that it's in there too. You guys can add that if you want. That's not the first tooth. That's kind of just what happens when the mouth is open. So just a couple little details in there. And if you guys are ready to move on to step 6, give me a thumbs up. We can move on with that too. I see a couple of them. I see a couple pencils too. So I'm going to give you guys just another second here. All right, so step 6, we're going to give this orca some teeth, right? Because orca's got to eat. So the interesting thing about all of orca teeth here, I have in the notes right beneath it, it says add cone-shaped teeth. So every single tooth on an orca is exactly the same, which is a lot different from us. We have pointy teeth, we have flat teeth in the back for chewing. Orcas have cone-shaped teeth, and they're sharp because they don't chew their food. They actually just bite their food, they try to tear it into smaller pieces, and then they swallow it. So when you're going through and you're adding the teeth for the orca, it's these little cone shapes in here. If you do that part first, it'll make drawing the rest of the mouth easier. So once you've got like 4 or 5 little teeth in there, cone-shaped teeth, the next line that'll be helpful is the tongue, and that could just be a line in between some of the teeth that connect to the top of the mouth here. And then you'll want another line in the background, and you can shade or add all of your pencil marks in there so that this is blacked out back there for the back part of the mouth. And then the last thing you're going to do before we move on from this step is you're going to finally give your orca an eye. So now he can eat, or she can eat and see by the time we're done with this step. All right, how's everybody doing? You hanging in there? Good? Get some thumbs up. How's everybody's orca mouths doing? This is kind of the toughest part, really. Good? All right, so in the next step, we're going to erase some more lines. So that's a little bit easier here. Some of the lines we're going to erase is if you go back to the soft triangle that I had you draw in for the dorsal fin, you can erase that line right here that's still here on step 6 so that it's very clean and that dorsal fin is finally connected to the back of the orca there. And then if you'll look at the tail, you're only going to want to erase some of this here. If you were to come away from the dorsal fin and come all the way down the back of the whale to that center mark that I had you draw your wavy lines from, you're going to want to leave some of that in there. But you are going to want to erase some of the rest of the cone. And you are actually going to add a little line right here. And that's because we're looking at the whale from the side. So instead of looking at the whale like he has a big Y fin on the back, you're actually seeing how it connects to the body right here. And if you want to start adding some darker lines all the way around the outline of your orca, once you get those lines erased, that's really going to help your orca kind of come together a little bit there. So basically, we're just connecting the fin to the back, and we're connecting the back of the tail to the back of the whale. All right, and then last but not least is the most fun part, at least it was the most fun that I had, and that's to add the eye patch, which is right above the eye, so another white area in here. And again, make it unique. All the orcas have different ones. Some of them are oval. Mine has a little bit of this like leading tail right here. So they're all different, which is really cool because that helps us tell them apart when we see them on the water. And then same thing for the saddle patch. So resident orcas have saddle patches that are either opened or closed. And when I say open, if you see the detail that I have here, I didn't connect this line all the way to the back. I put a little bit of openness in there so that when you were to look at it, there's a little bit of the black area that creeps into the southern resident saddle patch. And that's one really cool way that we know that they're southern residents from time to time. So some of them have that mark, which is really cool. When you all saw Ocean Sun, she had a big open saddle patch like that, where she had a big black area in that gray mark. But again, you could put any shapes in there, swirls, you could, you know, make it a soft triangle. All right. I'm still gonna give you guys maybe like another 60 seconds to erase, or you can add. Let me see, Charlie, I'm gonna unmute you. Did you have a question? Go ahead.
Well, you called on me earlier,
Oh, yeah,
and I wanted to answer that.
okay.
You could try to clean up plastic on beaches, or if you had diving gear, then you can go in and pick up plastic on the bottom.
That is excellent. That's a really good idea. Sometimes the plastic actually gets washed ashore too. So do you know what we do when that happens?
There's like a thing where people go down and clean it up.
We have beach cleanups, yes. We'll take pails and we take these little things called pickers that have pinchers on them, or we'll use gloves so that we don't get our hands dirty. And we'll pick up all the garbage and all the plastic and everything that doesn't belong in the ocean. And we'll either recycle it or we'll throw it where it belongs, which is the trash. So good job.
But the thing is, I've never really known this, but you know how when you bring your trash to a dumpster, it has a pile in the back? Do you know where that goes?
A pile in the back. Oh, behind the dumpster? So sometimes if there's a pile behind the dumpster, it could be that it's recyclable. Like I've been behind the building at the grocery store and seen cardboard boxes. So sometimes people will come get those if they're moving, or they'll put them in another bin to recycle. So they'll sort their trash. Or sometimes the bin is just too full, and when the garbage men come to pick up those things, then they'll look behind the dumpster and they'll grab that trash too. But that's a really good question.
I was just wondering if sometimes they put it in the ocean.
Oh, they put it in the ocean? Yeah, they shouldn't do that. That's not good.
Well, then maybe you should talk to them.
We probably should. All right, guys, so what I'm gonna do real quick is, before we move on to the next step, I'm actually gonna stop sharing my screen, because what would be really cool at this point, if you're done with your orca, is to hold it up so that we could see what you've drawn and we could see what everybody else has drawn. I didn't get to draw one because I was actually, that's my orca on the tutorial. So that can stand for mine. But if you hold it up to your screen, we would love to see your orcas. Look how good. You
Those
guys
are great, everybody.
I know. Everybody's is very anatomically correct, meaning all the body parts are in the right places.
Yay.
I'm
Beautiful.
excited.
That's great.
Perfect. Oh, some of you guys got a chance to print out the templates too.
Yay.
How awesome. Oh, we even have one with a little baby orca next to Mama Orca down
Aw.
there. All right,
That's
cool.
great.
So I'm going to move on to the next step, which is basically bringing what we've drawn together with an action. So we wanted you guys to have a little bit of fun with being able to draw an orca, but more importantly, what we wanted to do, and actually, I'm going to share the next page so that you can see what we're going off of if you don't have the template. We are going to pick out a name for your orcas. So before you write anything down, hold on for just a second, because Cindy's going to jump on with something from her screen. But then the next thing we're going to do is we talked about a lot of really good actions. We talked about picking up plastics and putting your trash in the right place. maybe not eating salmon at all, different things like that. So we're going to write a pledge, and a pledge means something that you think that you can do and that you will do in the future to help the southern residents. But Cindy has something really fun to show you first so that you guys might be able to pick an orca from the southern residents and maybe name the orca that you drew after that. So I'm going to let her put her screen up and show you guys a couple of our southern residents, see if you want to pick a name from there.
All right, thank you, Amanda. So as Amanda said, we just wanted to show you some names of southern residents. Hang on a second. There you go. So these are some of the names of the actual orcas in JK and L pod. This isn't all of them because there are 72 and we figured we didn't have room for all of them. But we put up some of the names and you can pick one of those names to name your orca if you want to. You don't have to, but we thought it might be fun if you named your orca after one of the actual orcas out there. So we'll leave that up for a few minutes and let you see if there's one that you like.
Yep, so if you guys have that template, there is a line where you can put the orca's name, but if you've been drawing on your own piece of paper and you want to just put whatever you want to name your orca somewhere right next to it, that would be great.
I think we have a couple questions too. Charlie, did you still have a question or was that your hand up from before?
Oh, I might not have put it down.
It's from before.
Okay,
Oh.
Thank you. And then Ryder, did you have a question?
Do you know what? Do you know which orca I drew?
I would love to know which orca you drew. Very good. Did you name your orca yet?
There's a clue right there.
I know it's small. Let's see.
It's a male.
Very nice.
It's from
Oh,
pod.
it's from which one?
L-pod.
L-pod. So is that Mega?
No, he doesn't swim with L-pod though.
It's
Oh,
Onyx.
we know. It's Onyx.
It's Onyx.
Oh, yay.
Yay. Good job.
Perfect. So his name isn't up there, but go ahead and write it down.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
right. I was going to say if there's an orca that you know already from one of the pods that you like, you can name your orca after that one as well. You don't have to use just these names.
Well, I know the name of one of the orcas from J-Pod because it has the same name as my dad.
Oh, yeah, Mike, right?
Which one is that?
Yep.
Is your dad named Blackberry?
No,
Is your, no?
that'd be really funny. But what's funny is I have a friend and he's from Florida and his principal's name was Huckleberry.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Gibson, did you have a question?
My orca's name is Buddy.
What's your orca's name?
My orca's name is Buddy.
Nice.
Buddy. I like that.
Awesome. All right. So if everybody has picked a name, then we're going to move on to that action item. And so if you have your template, there were a couple things I included on the side as suggestions, but you guys gave really good suggestions. And what Cindy did while we were talking was she took notes. So she's going to share that part of the screen again in case there was one that you heard somebody say and you were like, oh, that's a really good action. That's what I want to do. And so you can write that one down on your paper, or if there are other ideas that you have, then we can certainly write those down instead. We really want to know what you think that you can do to help. Maybe talking to people about where they put their trash. That was actually a really good suggestion. You know, and we can't be everywhere and do that all the time when we see it. But if you see it, you should definitely say to somebody, hey, we don't want that garbage in the ocean. What can you do to dispose of your garbage properly, right?
All right, so I am going to share the screen with your suggestions so that you can see those again. So these are some of the suggestions that you had, just in case you need a reminder. Can you see that okay, Amanda?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And Amanda also had some suggestions on the template, right?
Yes. Yeah, so if you have that template even pulled up, you know, in your email on a computer screen or on a phone while you're on Zoom, you can see them there. I left some spaces for you to give us specifics if you want to. You can do that as well and write that down, or you could come up with your own. You can choose one of these, whatever you want to do.
Looks like we have a hand raised again.
All right. Gibson, did you have a question?
Gibson?
Do orcas have scales?
Scales like fish?
Yeah.
They don't, actually. But do you know what they have that a lot of people don't know they have?
Huh.
Hair. So we call orcas marine mammals, right? And we're mammals too. And one of the things that mammals have that make us all mammals is hair. You're running your hands through your own right now. So they tend to have a little bit of hair. It's not really noticeable, but there is a little bit of hair on their body somewhere. That's part of. Say that again?
I drew extra little fins on it, and she called it hair, and was like, do they have hair or not?
Oh, they do. Yeah. Good question, though.
Like we have Charlie with a hand up as well.
There's a movie I watched. I think it's based on a real thing, but in the start it shows orca being captured and is put into this little small tank. And then there's these bad guys in the scene because they didn't really make any money, so they tried to drain the thing. But before that, a boy fell in to the tank, but the orca saved him.
I know what movie you're talking about.
I do too.
Do you remember what it was called?
No, I do not. So the bad guy tried to drain the tank, but the boy and his parents saved the orca.
Yeah. The
But
boy
the
and the
funny
orca wind up being friends, right?
Yeah, but the funny part is the bad guys were coming, but the dad just drove right through the gate
Mm-hmm.
thing.
So when they let the orca go, what's another word for that? What'd they do to the orca?
They released it.
They released him or they freed him. Do you remember what the orca's name was?
No, I don't.
All right, so the name of the movie is Free Willy because the whale's name was Willy. And that's what they did. They freed him. That was actually, I was probably your age the first time I saw that movie, and that's why I love orcas so much. So I knew exactly what you were talking about. All right, guys, so what do you think? Does everybody have an action written down? Something that they think that they can do to help the orcas, that you're going to do to help the orcas? All right. Maybe if we stop screen share, we can see what everybody has written. I'm interested to see what some of the actions were. And if you guys want to, our boxes are getting a little small. Ooh, I like that one, Clean Rivers. Oh, and Finn, you picked the whale named after you. I love it.
Yay.
I pledge that I will clean garbage off the beach. That's a really good one. A really good one. And then, oh, I'm having a hard time reading that one.
And if you guys want to say them, you can do that too. We can just go down the list if we can't, for some reason, see them on the screen. I love seeing them on the page, though.
And I think what we were going to ask you guys to do, if you're okay with it, is either take a picture of your paper and email. Cindy put her email in the chat for all the parents. We would love to have a copy of your Kids for Orcas. It's a program that we usually do during Orca Month on Washington State ferries, where we do little activities and we talk about the residents with kids. But because of the virus going around, we're doing everything on the computer. So we couldn't meet in person to do this one, but we would love to share your orca drawings and your actions on Facebook or on our website so that everybody could see what you guys decided you want to do to help the orcas, and hopefully they'll choose one of your actions, or they'll think about what they can do to help us too.
So I just put email addresses for both Amanda and I in the chat. So if you want to send those to us, please do. We would love to see them.
Yes. All right. Does everybody want a chance to raise your hand if you want to talk, and you can tell us what the name of your orca is and what action that you want to take? You guys want to do that? All right, we'll start. Yeah, okay. All right, so let's see. Is your first name Ayan? I'm trying to, let me see. I'm gonna get you unmuted. There you go. Okay. Tell me, how do you pronounce your name?
No, we're still not hearing you.
Yeah.
He's unmuted, but.
Huh. I wonder if it's the headphones.
It might be. It might be because of the headphones that we can't hear you. I'm not sure.
Do you want to try to unplug them? Oh, there you go. All right. So do you want to tell us what you named your orca? Oh.
Nope, still not hearing it.
I thought I heard him for a second.
Can you hold your orca up to the screen so we can see it? Hold it up really close. Okay, a little bit further over. Keep going. Good job. Oh, that's beautiful.
Nice.
Do you have a name for your orca? Can you hold it up? We can't quite see the name.
Oh, Spock.
Spock.
Awesome. Yay.
Yay. Good job.
Perfect. All right, who wants to go next? All right, I'm actually gonna unmute Brandon. I'm sure that's Dad back there. We've got two little faces in the screen here. You guys want to tell us what your orca's names are?
His name is Star and mine's Joy.
Star and Joy, nice. And then do you guys want to share the action that you decided you were going to take to help Southern residents?
Oh. No, read it. Read it. Recycle and pick up garbage.
Perfect.
And then I said one way I can help orcas is to not litter and pick up any trash I see.
Awesome. You guys are going to make a good team.
Yay.
Very good.
It's totally good. Like just got really open.
All right, Charlie, let's see. Do you want to share with us who you named your orca after and what your action is?
Well, I named mine after the one that's the same as my dad.
Oh, that's right, Mike.
Blackberry.
Oh.
I haven't finished writing mine.
Okay, we can come back to you if you want.
Okay.
All right, and Finn, we saw what Finn's was. He named his orca Finn as well, which worked out really nicely. And I think his was the one that said he will clean the beach. Is that right? Yep, pick up trash on the beach. Okay, let's see. Let's go to Jennifer. I'm not sure if that's your name or your mom's name.
My name's Yoda.
Oh, okay. And then what was your action?
Clean up garbage off the beach.
Perfect.
We're going to have some clean beaches with this
are.
group. Yay.
All right, and then Ronnie, I'm going to unmute you. You had your hand up. You want to tell us what you named your orca?
Yep. Maria.
Maria. I like it. And then what was your action to help Southern residents?
Give salmon to orcas.
I like it. Awesome. Good job.
I think we had another hand up here too for a little bit. Right, yeah, go ahead.
This big one is named Blackie and the baby is named Blackberry.
Nice.
Great.
Do you want to share your action with us?
Pick up garbage when I see them in the ocean.
Awesome.
Great.
All right, so who else hasn't gone yet? Gibson, you haven't told us what, yeah. So let me find you on here. We'll get you unmuted. All right, what's your orca's name?
Buddy, and my sentence, my pledge was clean up beaches if you see it.
Awesome. Very, very good. All right. So let's see. Anybody else? Charlie, you want me to circle back to you? You have your action done? Okay. All right, let us know.
So I have two.
Okay.
Tell people to put where to put their garbage and release salmon.
Nice. I like it. Good job. All right. Well, Wendy had mentioned this a little bit earlier when we first started. So I'm going to show you guys one more time in case you or your parents want to learn about orcas some more or learn about some of the other whales in the Salish Sea. So if you go to orcanetwork.org, from there at the top of our webpage, we have all of these little things that you can click on. But if you're looking to find out more about orcas, we made it really easy. You can just click the Orca tab. Once you're under the Orca tab, there are resources. So that's what this whole big website name is for. But if you're trying to get to maybe a list of books that you want to read or some other activities that you'd like to do, that's where you can find those on our website. I'm going to let Cindy probably close for us, but thank you guys so much. I loved all of your orcas. That makes drawing the step-by-step really cool and really worth it. I love to see all the little orcas that came from that. So.
All right, great job, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited to see pictures. If you want to take those and send them to us, we would love to see them. We're going to be getting an Orca report, I guess, by email. And if anybody else has done any reports or written any stories about orcas or other whales, if you would like to send those to us, we would love to see them. And so our email addresses are written in the chat. So feel free to send along anything you would like us to read. So thanks so much for joining us. I know this isn't the easiest way to do things. We like to do things in person. But the great thing about this is we got to have people from other places who wouldn't have been able to be here in person, right? So we have somebody from Colorado, we have somebody from California, and we wouldn't have been able to do that otherwise. So we are making the best of all of this, and we are learning to use Zoom, and we're enjoying it. And you guys are probably better at it than we are because you probably did school by Zoom. So we hope you had a really good time. We loved having you here. Wendy, is there anything you would like to say? Let's unmute Wendy.
Okay. Just thanks, everybody. And would everyone like to do this once a month? To have a different lesson every month for the summer?
Thumbs up.
Do it back in person again.
Do a thumbs up if you're interested in that.
So just check our Facebook page or
Yay.
email me at wendylsigns@gmail if you want to get on our youth email list.
That up in the chat as well. It's another good thing about Zoom, we can chat. There we go. All right, does anybody have any last questions for us? I can't wait to see your pictures when you send them to us. Charlie, did you?
It's not a question, but thanks for doing this. It's fun, and my parents are very thankful that you could entertain me.
Oh. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes.
Thanks. Thank all your parents for getting you signed up.
Yes.
Great. We appreciate it.
Anybody else? Okay, well, big hand for all of you. You did a
Bye,
great
everybody.
job. Thank you for joining us. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
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 Have a good afternoon.
You too.
You too. Thanks, everybody.
All right. And Amanda, I think you're the one who has to end the meeting.
Okay.